Our Father in heaven, we are thankful for the many blessings God has provided for us. We are thankful to live in this community, in this part of Alberta, the beautiful area that it is. We're thankful for our town employees and the hard workers that they are, and for our first responders and how hard they work. We ask a blessing upon those that are having a hard time with this particular situation that we're dealing with right now. Also bless the Farrells as they're going through a difficult time as he's in surgery today. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
And thank you for that prayer and for your concern. Well, welcome to this meeting. I'm trying to see if Councillor Bengry is online or not. Doesn't appear that way. Hopefully we'll catch him along the way sometime. So we will call this meeting to order. It's the 26th of May, and we are having a regular Cardston Town Council meeting. And we like to welcome the media for Templestown, Mr. Hill, and we are also grateful to have our peace officer and to have Constable Dave Payne.
That's right.
So thank you so much for all of you who are here. So I'm not so sure if we want to give that another minute, but we need to adopt the agenda. Hopefully by that time we'll be ready to have it. Thank you. Any additions that we need? No. Okay. All right. So all in favor? Thank you.
Aye.
Okay, that's fine. Councillor Bengry, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, fine. Thank you. I see your hand. I'm happy.
Can you hear me?
All right. Yes, I can hear you. Thank you, Councillor. So we will have our delegation. Constable Dave Payne will come and give us a report, and we'll talk especially about an amendment to policies that we have in town, or bylaw, if you don't mind coming. And I know you're not in your uniform, but regardless, you're still Constable Payne, and we're happy to have you.
All does the attire in the process of moving.
Well, we wish you well.
So for the record, Constable David Payne with Carson RCMP Detachment. The reason I'm here today is we seek an amendment in the Town of Carson Public Safety Bylaw regarding gangs and the affiliations of gangs in this community. As an RCMP member and as a peace officer as well, we're seeing an uprising in the presence of gangs in this community. Specifically with the Bloods, the Moses Lake Bloods, the Alberta Warriors. There have been red alert gangs coming down from Obima at times. We don't have quite an issue with Hells Angels or anything in this community yet. The only time we ever really see them is when they drive down to the border. The issue that we're having with gangs right now is the violence that we're seeing on Main Street. Main Street has been quite the focus for the RCMP detachment for the last couple of years. We're seeing an uprising in crime and violent crime as well. So the issue with the gangs that we have right now is when you take two specific side gangs, being we'll say the Bloods and we'll say the Crips. The violence that's going on downtown is the interaction between the two gangs. It's not necessarily violence that is being directed towards members of the community of Carson and the public and people walking down Main Street, but it's the violence that occurs that is putting these people at risk. Therefore, it's becoming a public safety issue. Just within the last few months, we've had several files and several calls with assaults, weapons assaults, all being as a result of gang violence on the Main Street area. And also this, I mean, it's not just specific to Main Street, but we're also seeing gang violence up and around the Husky area, anywhere around that Highway 5 area, the areas down by Extra Foods, and throughout different locations of the community. We do know that there are several locations and homes in this area that do house members of different criminal organizations and gangs. And this is something that we're trying to find a lawful way that we can deal with these gangs. So I'll use an example. Last week while I was on duty during day shift doing a foot patrol, I ran into 5 people at the Kronen Hotel. Each of them was wearing red rags. A red rag is a depiction of the gang of the Bloods, either being just the normal Bloods or the the Moses Lake blood. So they'll wear these rags, either they're bandana rags, they'll have them either on their neck, they'll have them hanging out of their pockets, they'll have them around their wrists, and this is to affiliate themselves to that specific gang. We know that if you take a look at the Crips wear the blue bandanas. So that's the issue we're seeing. So when you have a Crip and you have a Blood downtown, and they see these different insignias of the gang, that will incite violence, because they're looking for territory and they're looking for specific areas that they can claim as theirs. We know that these gangs are quite heavily involved in the drug trafficking trade in Carson. There is quite a heavy drug trafficking population in this community. We see, and have been seeing, especially myself, an uprising in the methamphetamines and the crack cocaine business going on in this community. A lot of it is being brought in from Calgary and the Lethbridge area, being supplied to the members down here. A lot of it from Moses Lake, but coming into Carson as well. So being with that, I find that if we can get an amendment to the public safety bylaw, this is going to give us as members, the RCMP and the peace officer, the ability to first come into contact with these members. So if they come into town and they're wearing their specific gang colors, they will be asked to either put their gang colors away, put them in their pocket, not to display them in town, and give them that opportunity. If they're being lawful and they're just doing nothing wrong, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with people being lawfully around town, unless they're breaking other bylaws, but they will be requested to remove those gang colors and gang insignias, because we're hoping that that can put a stop to some of the violence. Now, at that point, if they decide that they're not going to, which I feel and know that several of them will not, because they find it very offensive if they have to remove their gang colors and insignias, then we can move to the other option, which would be to impose a fine under the bylaw for them not removing their gang insignias and colors. And if, as any offense, it continues, and they still refuse to either leave the community, if they want to wear their gang colors, that's fine, go somewhere else, that's not in the town of Carson, or put your gang colors away, stay in the community, do your businesses. At that point, if they refuse all and have been charged, then they can at least be arrested for the continuation of the offense. And then therefore, we can go through different options, one being if they need to be released by a justice of peace, who will give them conditions, and in those conditions, they can be forced to not being allowed to wear gang colors and insignias and stuff inside the community. And hopefully that will give us the ability to stop some of the violence that's going on and lawfully be able to remove people who are not willing to provide, or sorry, to accommodate with that legislation. Because that is quite a big part of the issue. I've noticed in myself, I am our detachment intelligence officer. So part of my job is to gain intel on gang and drug activity within this community. I've only been in this position as the intel officer now for 3 months. But already in that time, I've got a list and names of people that I know specifically are parts of different criminal organizations. So that also helps. So as officers and members, and with the bulletins and stuff that I make that are specific to myself and who are the peace officer, we can see and we can know who specifically these people are. We know them by name, we know what they look like, and these are the ones that we're worried about, that are causing the violence, that are causing the mischief, that are causing the theft, and that are putting the other people of this town into a position where they may become victimized because of the activity that's going on. So that's what we're seeking this amendment for. Do you guys have any questions?
Well, I think Councillor Brown would like to speak.
Thank you, first of all, for all your work. We really appreciate it, because when we all got on council, one of our biggest reasons and that the public wanted for us was Main Street. That was their biggest concern, was help us, like, what's going on Main Street? So we're happy that there's foot patrol that's happening. I guess my question is, so the very first time you come up, you see somebody with the rag or whatever color it is, and you go up to them and you say, put it away. They say, I'm not going to put it away. By us doing this, it allows you to, on the spot, do what then?
Then if that purpose of first interaction and giving them that opportunity to either put away the rag or keep it on, leave town, that's their option. That's the first line of option.
Okay.
Because I don't want to come all of a sudden just be like enforcement based. I want to give them the opportunity to say, listen, I understand you're part of this gang, and most of them, almost, if not all of them, will admit that, yes, I'm a part of this gang, because it's actually an offense and internally in their gang to deny that they are a portion of this gang. And they will have their signs, different insignias and stuff that they will shoot around town. As you notice, I'm sure you've seen some spray painting that's been going on. A lot of that is gang insignias and colors specific, especially when you see like spray painting with red and stuff. That means that a blood member did this, vandalism, or whatever. So they get that warning initially. If they're on Main Street, they say, you know what, Peg, I'm not listening to you. I'm not taking off my colors. What are you going to do about it? Okay, well, my next line of action is, okay, now I know who you are. You're refusing to do this. I'm going to give you a fine under the bylaw. And the first offense is, I believe it was $200 that was listed. That's fine. Here is your bylaw infraction for $200. At that point, when an offense has been occurred, I legally now have the authority to seize that rag, and I can use that as an exhibit. Hey, you don't want to remove it, I'm going to take it, and it's now going to be mine. Here's your fine. I'm going to take this. This is going to be entered as an exhibit in court. So I'll provide this to the judge, see what you were wearing, see what you refused to get rid of. If they then at that point refuse to provide that evidence and refuse to give me anything, then at least we can go to the next step, which is to arrest them. Because they can be arrested for criminal obstruction for not providing that evidence, that exhibit over.
Because realistically, are they going to pay the fine?
And that's the thing, with most bylaws, as far as I don't understand, they still either go to do two different parts. So they'll have the part where you can pay the fine, or they can go to court. A lot of the people that we know that are gangs, they don't have jobs, but they do tend to have quite a bit of money because of the drug trade. So yeah, a lot of them probably would just pay their fine and get over it, as long as we made it to a fine where it was either pay your fine or go to court as an option.
Okay.
So then they could go to court, depending on what the court decides to do, and the Crown, which I'm still going to be having discussions with this bylaw with the Crown to get everything squared away with him.
Okay.
Then they'll be held accountable.
Okay.
It's not like a provincial offense where it's just speeding. It goes directly to your registries, and you just can't renew your registration or driver's license.
Right.
But what does that do for a person who doesn't have a driver's license, has no registries, who doesn't care? So that just adds up, and nothing's ever done, money's never collected.
Right.
This way, pay the fine, or you go to court. If you don't do one or the other, you will have a warrant for your arrest, and then you'll be arrested.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cote.
Just a quick question. Provided they don't live in the community, would the justice, if they're repeat offenders, could they be banished from this community?
I've only in my career in 14 years now have I ever seen one where twice, where justice of the peace was given somebody conditions where they were not allowed to be inside the community. And that's when I was up in High River. And that was that was done for a serial sex offender. He had gotten conditions that he was not allowed to be anywhere within the town of High River. And yet we kept catching. But that is something that justice of the peace and judges are allowed to do. They can base their conditions based off of public safety. So if this is a repeat offender who's continuously doing this, and usually amongst with the bylaw offense, you're also probably going to be seeing an assault, a weapon. You might be seeing mischief, theft from here, theft from there. A lot of times it's people that are getting assaulted that are not from this community, that are coming in off the Blood Reserve, who are just trying to do shopping, who are providing an economy for this community, and then because they're coming in, these gang members are approaching them and trying to take their money, take the drugs, whatever they do. So these people are also being harassed. So it doesn't just affect people in the town of Carson, it's also affecting members of the Blood Reserve who are good quality people who are just trying to get into town to do business.
Councillor Payne, I just want to ask you how it is possible to deal with what often I see on Main Street. That is, a truck arrives, parks on the front of the drugstore, and you can see people from the street congregating at the window, and you can see something is happening.
And that's something that we've been really trying to work on. Within the last couple months, myself, I've been doing undercover surveillance operations on Main Street specifically. So you guys wouldn't even know that I'm there. I'd be parked in a random vehicle that belongs to the RCMP. I'd be sitting there by myself, with a radio, with binoculars, and watching for drug trafficking offenses, because that's one of the mandates that I'm trying to do is to take care of that drug trafficking. And specifically, it's usually set up in front of the different pharmacies. So not a drug mart, not being a fault to them, it's not their fault that it's happening. The issue is people, of all races are going in, they're purchasing their Tylenol 3s, getting their prescriptions or whatever from the doctors who are, in my opinion, over prescribing, but people are needed, and that's causing part of the big issue. And we've discussed this with the medical doctors and pharmacies, like, listen, there's no reason a person needs 300 Tylenol 3s in one shot. What are they doing with that? No, they're going out. So what we find is we will make several arrests on people for other offenses in the town, and we'll find the prescription drugs on them. And I had one last week where she was prescribed methadone. It was 5 bottles of methadone. I can't remember the mil, but she was prescribed them that day, and all of the methadone was gone. So that is being supplied to other people and being sold for a profit. What's going on? So that's what I'm trying to do within the detachment, is specifically locate these people who are doing this in front of the pharmacies, because we do get quite a lot of calls and quite a lot of people providing this information. And that's the thing about drug trafficking in this town, is people don't realize how difficult investigations they have to be. Because we have to, not only with surveillance, if I'm doing surveillance, I have to be able to sit there and watch so many transactions over and over and over before a judge is even going to be willing to provide me a warrant to do what I need to do. So that's why we really rely on members of the community. If members of the community are out downtown and they see what they believe is a drug trafficking interaction, they should report it 100% every time. Report it to the police. That way we can keep detail that that's what's going on, and especially if they know who's doing it, a vehicle license plate, anything like that.
Okay, so is that okay for people then to snap a shot?
Yeah, it's not illegal for you to take pictures and video camera of anybody. You know, typically when I'm doing a traffic stop, just about weekly, I have somebody's camera in my face while I'm doing my job, and there's nothing I can do about it. So yeah, if somebody just takes a quick picture, I mean, they have to understand though, is I don't want members of the community putting themselves into a predicament where they're going to take somebody's picture, that person's going to see them, and now they're going to approach that person and possibly have a violent interaction.
Well, that's a worry for us, right?
It is a worry. That's why I usually just tell people to tell us what you've seen. Describe the person that you've seen. If you happen to walk past and you see a license plate, just randomly look at it. Remember that license plate, provide us that information, and that way we can follow up with it.
Thank you so much for all that update. We always had a feeling around the table that there were some illicit activity going on our street. We all had witnessed some of that activity, and we always wondered, how can it be dealt with in such a way that it doesn't mushrooms?
And I think this is a really good step. If you look what the Alberta Justice District did several years ago, they already passed legislation not permitting gangs to wear anything inside of liquor establishments. We're lucky here that we don't have liquor establishments and bars and stuff like that. But say if I was to work in a different community, like in Fort Macleod, there is a law where if you're a Hells Angels member, a member of any other criminal organization, where you're wearing a vest, colors, anything like that, you can't legally go inside of a liquor establishment wearing those colors.
Okay.
So that's why this bylaw is kind of a good thing, because it starts at a small precedent where we can have this, and we can grow from it, and hopefully that we can use this bylaw to stop the violence, stop future violence from occurring, and getting a grip on the gangs. And it will rapidly be known if this is passed quickly throughout the community and throughout the reserve, what people are allowed to do. They're going to see, oh crap, now it's against the law, I can't wear my gang colors in town, or else that constable pain can get me, right? Like, and that will quickly go around, and hopefully that will help to solve part of the issue. Will it completely solve violence? Will it completely solve mischief, any of the issues downtown? Absolutely not. I don't think we will ever, as a police service, be able to stop everything that's going on downtown. That would take manpower beyond our control, but all we can do is keep doing what we're doing, up our foot patrols on Main Street, really concentrate on Main Street during the days, because that is where a majority of our calls do come from, is Main Street and businesses downtown.
Well, thank you, because you're totally supporting what we always wanted to see, which was more boots on the ground, more eyes, more vigilance. And so thank you. Councillor
I just
Coulter.
want to ask a quick question. It's not really dealing with this, but the occasion, this happened yesterday, or the day before on social media. There was an incident in front of a store. The store owner apparently did something to a child or something. He reported it to the RCMP, and I don't know if anything got her done, but they threw it out on there, and they were ranting pretty hard on the store owner, almost to the point of threatening.
Yeah, I know.
Anything to be done about that kind of thing?
Yeah, I know the person that laid that, put that rant on, and he's quite well known to constantly putting stuff like that too. In my opinion, it started race baiting throughout the community, and to put one side of the community against the other side of the community. Everything that he put on there was completely not what it was. A full investigation was done on that. The members who saw that there was it was not necessary to lay any criminal charges on that matter. And there's a whole outlining other issue regarding that child, that we have as well. So yeah, I know Mr. Shouting and the things that he constantly puts on
I
there.
just worry about inciting the violence.
But yes, there is a criminal offense. Just give me a moment here. I have to find it. Just had it sent out. It's one thing that we're going to start looking into, section 319 sub 1 of the criminal code. It does state that everyone who by communicating statements in any public place incites hatred against any identifiable group where such incitement is likely to lead to a breach of the peace, the person could be guilty of that offense. So yeah, so if a person's going on Facebook and the person starts slandering a store, slandering a person, you're now looking into criminal harassment, you're looking into criminal harassing communications, which is two different things. And that's specifically meant for Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, all these stupid social media sites that we have out there that are just causing a cancer to this community and to this world. So that's why they've implemented these into the criminal code. And this other section does specifically state that if this person is going on Facebook and now inciting something to happen against that store, then yes, that person can be investigated and charged for that specific section.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Question?
Councillor Bengry, I cannot see your hand up, but do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Can you
Go
hear me
ahead.
here?
Yes, stay close to the mic, to your,
Okay, if you can hear me, that's great. If not, I'm gonna get my shoes on and come down there.
it's
First of all,
okay.
has Officer Payne, I appreciate his work with this situation. Has he had a chance to look at our bylaw 1543?
Is you talking about the amendment?
Just the bylaw. Well,
Yeah, 1643 is the bylaw that we will be amending.
Yes. Mr. Shaw sent me that bylaw. I have reviewed it and looked through it and the definitions that were even included in it. And I thought that it was actually fantastic, the way that it was worded. It was worded just about identical to the way that I wanted it when I first came in and approached the guys about it.
Thank you.
Okay. That's it? Any more comments?
No,
Well, thank you so much for your hard work in this community, and it's going to restore some confidence to hear you speaking like this and openly about an issue that we kind of knew existed. So thank you so much for tackling that. I know that everything won't be perfect, but at least there is a sense that someone is on it. So thank you.
thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Thank you, and good move. Thank you so much, Sean. All right, we have number 5 is the adoption of minutes of the regular meeting of May the 12th, 2000. So, Councillor Selk?
I'll move to adopt the minutes of the council meeting for May the 12th.
Thank you. I found them representing what we spoke about. So, any questions? Seeing none. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, I saw your hand. That's good. Number 6, bylaw and policy. So, we have the draft bylaw of 1643A, which is exactly what we were speaking of right now, which is a public safety bylaw, and the amendment that was requested by the RCMP to be able to be more efficient in their works regarding gang activity in this town. If you remember, a few years ago, we had gang activity, but it was at the school where the bandanas were absolutely banned. So it's only bringing back its ugly head. So it needs to be dealt with properly in this community. Councillor Selk?
I move first reading of bylaw 1643, public safety bylaw amendment.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Court?
I'm assuming this has been done in other towns. This is all.
This is something that I must thank Shem. He researched that very carefully. And as you heard Councillor Payne say, it's very well worded. So thank you, Shem, for your research. So, Councillor,
I'm wondering, for the people who do get to watch this on YouTube, maybe we should read what the new amendment is.
would
Are you
you,
aware of it?
it's up to you, Councillor. If you wish to read it, go ahead.
I'll read it if.
Please.
Okay. For the new section to be added following section 13, we'll read 13.1, no person shall be permitted in the town of Carson to wear or display any apparel, insignia, or other paraphernalia that associates that individual with any criminal organization or street gang, and that the specified penalty for an offense under section 13.1 in Appendix A of bylaw 1643 be $200 for the first offense, $400 for a second offense, and $600 for a third and subsequent offenses.
Right, and as you heard, beyond that, it is legal papers that will be drawn and brought to court. All right. So, all in favor? Thank you. Seems to be unanimous. So we will not do second and third readings. Those will be done at the next regular meeting. Okay? So we have draft bylaw 1691, public notification bylaw. Is there anything there that, Jeff, you want to talk about, or
Excuse me, happy to answer any questions or give any context.
do you have any question regarding?
So just a clarification, they're basically just expanding it outside of newspapers to other means of communication.
Correct. In the previous iteration of the MGA, any statutory planning document, public hearings, any public hearings, borrowings, et cetera, the only way you could give up public notice legally was through the local paper. And what you found across, well, probably North America, but particularly I'm only aware of Alberta, is a lot of small towns don't have a local paper. And so they were having to pay advertising in the large city paper 200 kilometers away because they had to be compliant. So they're buying, advertising in the Calgary Herald for the little villages, public hearing, things like that. And so what the MGA said is, if you pass a bylaw as a council, there's a number of other ways you can give proper notice in your community. Now, what we would ask from you is, we listed some because they seem to be somewhat straightforward, but if you don't feel that some of them are appropriate to be a mode of notice, or if we're missing something, by all means, we take that feedback.
I found the list pretty thorough, really. Council, do you have any thoughts?
Put it on a rant radio, it'll get out there.
We're going to specifically omit that one.
Yeah.
Can't use it.
I can make a motion.
Please, Councillor Brown.
I make a motion to receive first reading of bylaw 1691.
Public
Public
notification.
note, yeah,
Bylaw.
public notification.
Questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. All right, this also will receive further readings in 2 weeks' time. 2 weeks? Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, she's correct, yeah.
Yes. All right, under 7, other business, I'm going to give Jeff a chance to really update us on our COVID-19 Emergency Coordination Center update.
Okay.
And that will essentially deal with playgrounds and garage sales, and he will need a little bit of input here.
Yeah, bear with me, I'm just gonna give you a couple of things
And
here.
then we will
Probably just inside of 6 feet, forgive me.
then deal later on with Jeff also on the on-site premises, with a portion of discussion to be public and a portion that will be in the chambers, in closed session.
Okay, so generally, let me speak about, the pandemic measures. So our emergency coordination center is still open. Really what that means is we're meeting every week with our different community sectors. Mostly, the only weekly meetings right now are the health sector and the government sector. The other ones are just meeting as needed, which has been pretty quiet lately, thankfully. That's a good thing. So I met today, we had our health sector meeting at 10 this morning, we had our government sector meeting at 3. Just a quick summary of those, by and large, our health facilities, which includes the hospital, the seniors care facilities, Carson Support Services, and the clinic, and Bloodshot Health, is who meets in that one, all are doing well as far as capacity, staffing, personal protective equipment, all those kinds of things. Everyone is doing pretty well, so that's a good thing. Our government sector is the RCMP, the peace officer, fire, town, county, the blood tribe, and darn it, I'm forgetting somebody, but Alberta Emergency Management. That's the other people at that meeting. And again, by and large, doing well. A couple things that have come up, and in fact, have changed a lot in the last few hours, to be frank, is communities are starting to look at municipal infrastructure that they want to start reopening. And so the one that's being discussed most thoroughly right now is playgrounds. And what do we do with playground structures? And the guidance from the province has changed a little bit recently, where they have, this sheet that I gave you here is the most recent guidance for playgrounds. Now, up until about a week ago, I believe, my timing might be a touch off, but it doesn't matter. The previous direction on playgrounds, they fell under outdoor recreation, and essentially it said that the owner of the facilities had to disinfect it regularly, and they were talking about every 3 hours you'd have to wipe down all the surfaces and do all that, which was completely, you couldn't do it. You know, we have, I think, 7 tot lot structures. There was no way that every 3 hours they were all getting wiped down in order to let people do it. So nobody was entertaining opening playgrounds. That was the position. And then last week, this guidance came out, which essentially took a lot of the onus for safety and put it on the individual user, and said, okay, municipalities, you need to, okay, don't turn your drinking fountains on. Fair enough. Keep the garbages empty and make sure they have liners in them so you can clean those out. Fair enough, no problem. Put signage reminding people of gathering restrictions and social distancing. And then it says to limit access to playgrounds to those who live in the immediate neighborhood. I don't understand how you're exactly doing that either. You know, whether that can be difficult too. And we don't have this massive capacity issue at our playgrounds generally. So I think that's okay. But what it did is it said to the individual, it's up to you to disinfect before and after use. And it's up to you to make sure that you're limiting your exposure on the facilities. So now all the municipalities over the last few days have been saying, okay, should we start reopening playgrounds? And this has been met with really differing opinions. So there's strong opinions on both sides. And I'll give you an example. The city of Edmonton announced about an hour and a half ago, by the way, because I just got it on my email, that they're opening their playgrounds. But it's all got, they just put up, they said they put up 600 signs so far to 70% of their playgrounds. And they intend to open them for the weekend under these conditions and restrictions. But then you have many other communities. We polled a number of communities that we have an email group, and probably 50–60% are not opening their playgrounds at all. They feel there's too much of a risk to the municipality. They feel there's a liability aspect there. So I wanted to just touch on, a couple of things. I asked Shem to make up some signage that if we open, what would that look like? And so he's made these signs, they're great. It talks about adult supervision, stay a bike length apart, sanitize your hands before and after touching the equipment, and it's not sterilized. So let's make that clear. And this is something, for example, we could post at all of our playground structures, should we choose to open. And what got me thinking about this more acutely for the town is the school division emailed and said they're getting questions in all of their communities about whether or not they're going to open the school playgrounds, but that they'd like to do it consistently with all of the towns within the division, which I think is a good move. I think that's appropriate. So now McGrath, Raymond, and Sterling and I have been emailing about, what are you doing and what's going on? And so it looks like everybody's shooting to open in the next couple of days, which is all good. But on my government sector meeting today, I mentioned that in the meeting. And so immediately after the meeting, I get a call from Gerry from Alberta Emergency Management. And he's saying, I'm really concerned that you're thinking of opening your playgrounds. I think that might be a little premature and that it might be a little early, and I'm not sure that that's something that you should do. And so we had a lot of discussion around the liabilities of it and what the concerns are. I wanted to actually read something too, because I thought this was really good. There was a town hall meeting with municipal leaders and the Minister Madhu, and the Chief Medical Officer of Health was there. And I have a portion of the transcript of that, because somebody asked specifically to the Chief Medical Officer of Health about playgrounds. So if you'll bear with me a bit, I think this will give us a little more context for you as elected officials. So a gentleman named Michael Yargo, I don't know who that is, he said, my question is for Dr. Hinshaw. I was hoping for some clear direction around playgrounds. The Alberta.ca website states that municipalities can open these facilities, but the Alberta Emergency Management team is advising us against it. I like this because it's precisely the situation I was in at 3:30 this afternoon. Due to the conditions that would have to be met to keep them open. So that provides a lot of confusion for residents who only go to the Alberta.ca website. So I'm hoping we can clean that up a bit. And Dr. Hinshaw says, and she goes on to talk about giving heads up to municipalities. I'll skip all that. She says, the information we are providing from the Ministry of Health is that playgrounds can open. And she says, I get the discretion. Now, by the way, they're transcribing, so there may be some words missing here. Some of it doesn't read well. She goes, I get that there is discretion of the municipality. So if a municipality chooses to keep them closed, that is certainly under their ability to do so. But if they choose to open them, we've provided guidance that I believe is published on our website with respect to how parents or users can reduce the risk. And we have not in that guidance required, for example, municipalities to clean playgrounds. We felt it was not commensurate with the risk that playgrounds pose. So our advice is that parents of children who wish to use the playground need to consider their family, their children's risk if they were to get sick, and to take appropriate steps, such as making sure that children who are sick don't use playgrounds and to sanitize hands before and after using them. Some of those types of measures we are not requiring or asking the municipalities that they regularly clean or disinfect playgrounds, as that is not, I think, a reasonable requirement to place on those groups of people in those organizations. I hope this helps clarify. Again, it sounds like we may have different information on different websites. And so the moderator said, so if I may, Dr. Hinshaw, jump on this particular question. I think the point that we're making is there's no public health order restricting the use of playgrounds. The expectation is that municipalities would make a local decision bearing in mind the recommendation to ensure that social distancing rules are observed and complied with in order to minimize the spread of COVID-19. So these are local decisions that municipalities would have to make. There is not blanket restrictions on the ability of residents, and then it says it was inaudible, of playgrounds, but it's common sense, I think. Every family out there understands that COVID-19 is real, and to ensure that the kids themselves, their neighbors, and their communities are safe when using the playground. So there's just been this ton of information going around, and our agencies, and I appreciate where Gerry, I didn't mean to vilify Gerry in that either. Gerry is great and we're good friends, but he's just saying, please exercise caution. What's your push to open them, is what he's asking me. Why can't you wait until, for example, phase 2? Which is a fair question, but we don't know when that is, and it's probably no sooner than the middle of June. The other thing, I'll be frank, that I look at is we have a 26-degree weekend coming up. Yeah. And people have been pent up a little bit, and is there a lot of risk in keeping it closed? And these are a bit unknown. So, as Dr. Hinshaw said in that transcript, there is no public health order to keep them closed. And the onus is on the families to understand the seriousness of the situation. And we need to make sure that before we opened any of them, that we make sure we had them signed properly and that we had these, frankly, plastered all over each playground so that people understand. Now, the one little piece in there that says the municipality is responsible to see that public or social distancing things are being met in capacity. Well, I can't tell you that we're going to monitor playgrounds 24/7 between now and the end of the pandemic. I'm not going to suggest that's reasonable for us at all. So that's why the signage is in place to at least we've made people aware of it. The other piece on the sign that Shem and I had a reasonable debate about this morning was requiring adult supervision at the playground. Is that something we're going to put on the signs? We had it off and then we put it on. So are we going to tell the community that your kids can only go to the playground if they're supervised? And that's because kids of a certain age, let's be honest, they're wiping their runny nose and they're putting their mouth on everything on that playground and they're sliding backwards with their face on the slide, and that's just what you do at a playground. And we've accepted that risk as a society for all of time. We get it. We get it. So the question is, are we going to require parents, and then what are we going to do if they're not? So Sean drives by a playground, there's 6 kids on there, there's no parents around. We just chasing them and they scatter and hopefully you went somewhere else. Like it's a weird thing to enforce because you're dealing with little children. Very difficult to, I mean, they would probably listen if you told them to go home. But we just want some feedback on the comfort of council on this matter.
Yeah.
And some of those issues, and Councillor Drew has something when he gets to that, Mary.
So Councillor Drew, Councillor Court, and then I will add something. Councillor Drew, go ahead.
So Jeff, I guess my concern is if we post warning signs at all of the playgrounds and someone contracts COVID virus, will they be able to come back to the municipality and say, I'm suing you because you allowed us to play on the playground? Or is posting signage enough for us to not have any liability in that regard?
So completely the biggest question here, and the legitimate question. I don't know the exact answer to it. I can give you a couple of thoughts that have come up over the last day or two. AUMA, I was on a call today with the province. We have a weekly call with Shane Schreiber, who's the provincial emergency management coordinator. And a representative of AUMA came on and talked about playgrounds that we're of course concerned about. We insure a lot of the municipalities. We're their insurer. And so we're concerned about their liability. And their position now, I don't know how legally vetted this is, but AUMA's position as the insurer was, if municipalities are providing the minimum of the guideline, then they should be able to be defended at least by their insurer. The ambiguity in here is when you look at the guideline and it says something like, consider limiting capacity or limiting access to playgrounds to those who live in the immediate neighborhood. Now, those are just considerations, by the way, they're not must. So signage was more of a definitive garbage bins and drinking water. Those we can easily accommodate. We can perform that minimum requirement quite easily. And then I think we would do some, I'd ask Sean throughout the day to go to playgrounds and provide some education where needed, you know, those kinds of things. I'm not really sure what we're going to see for capacity in our playgrounds. If parents are simply going to tell their kids, it's great they're open, stay off, that may be the message to children. I don't know yet. So I think to your question, Councillor Drew, if we show that we have made an effort to comply with the guidance, our insurer feels that that is reasonably sufficient.
Great, thanks.
Councillor Court?
Yes. As of yesterday, there was about 750 total cases that they know of in the province, and that's going down quite readily. Within 2 weeks, if this pattern continues, there will be no COVID in this province. The COVID right now is pocketed. A lot of it's in Calgary, in the nursing homes, and even in the packing plants, it's becoming more and more rare. To shut everything down when we see a steep behind, and there hasn't been any that we know of. We know there's some in the area, we know there's some on reserve, and at least we know there's some in Carson County. We don't know where they're at. We don't know of any cases in the town itself that I know of, except for those that are sheltering in the motel up there. I really think it's time to, like you said, people are going a little bit batty. The nature trails are getting used constantly. I am on it all the time. By the way, it needs to be opened up again. I know you're working on it, but anyhow. So I feel that it's time to open this up a little bit. The chances of a child contracting COVID right now, to me, is extremely low. And so I don't see the need to keep it shut for a weekend where it's going to be 26 above. I understand that. I like this idea. Put up signs, put it in the people's hands, that they're the ones that are responsible for their kids. As far as adult supervision required, I don't know about that one, but anyhow, that's just my feelings on it. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Brown, I'm just going to talk to Councillor Drew for a second. Councillor Drew, I understand your concern, but how would a judge be 100% sure that the child would have contracted it on the playground? That
Sure.
would be a tough one to prove.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to take every precaution and every measure to let the public know that is their responsibility at this time. And we cannot forever have the responsibility when we don't have the manpower to deal with that. So it's reopen the playgrounds under those restrictions that we have here, educating the public and hoping that parents would exercise caution and wisdom.
I just want to make sure. Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're covered, and it sounds like we are. So I'm satisfied with that. We're doing everything that we need to do, so that's good.
I had those questions too with Jeff, and yes, I'm glad you voiced those concerns. Councillor Brown.
No, I essentially, I just wanted to say what you were saying earlier, because I mean, it is up to parents, even now, go out in the community, and some kids have masks and gloves and hazmat suits on, and others are running and licking and touching things, right? So we have it all within our community. But I really love, Shem, I guess you did this, I really love the bottom where it says playground equipment is not sterilized, use at own risk. So to me, as a parent, it's on me.
Yeah.
If I take my child to the playground, then it's, I've taken my kids to the playground and right by my house, and my son broke his arm, but it was on me-ish. You know what I mean? Like, I took him to the playground. He chose to Superman off. Anyway, but it is on us as parents, and it's our responsibility to protect them to the best of our ability. But as a town, we can never say that your child won't get the flu, whatever, from anything in town. We cannot say that. But I really like this idea. I think that's brilliant.
Councillor Selk, Councillor Barnes. Councillor.
Can't be.
Yeah.
Turn your plan.
It seems that there is so much information regarding COVID-19 that even the Center for Disease Control is kind of walking back from the notion that you can get COVID from surfaces anyway. So if we don't do it now, when? Are we going to wait till phase 2, which is some
we don't know when.
number or date, who knows when? I think that we're comfortable with this kind of posting.
Yeah.
I agree with all that's been said by all the councillors.
Thank you.
It's not sterilized, you use it at your own risk.
Councillor Barnes.
I echo everything else you said, but the question I have, Jeff, is we have a lot of parents calling saying, when the heck are you opening up these playgrounds? We're going crazy here,
No, I wouldn't say we've been inundated. Like I said, we've heard the school divisions have some requests. I'll get it casually, so you'll get those casual when you see people and talk to them. And I think I had was it Friday? I had somebody specifically asked me that, but no, we're not being inundated with it. I think the community by and large is very patient, saying, we're willing to see how this plays out. We're willing to trust, you know, the medical officer of health and those recommendations. I don't know, I mean, aside from the few social media lunatic fringe, there isn't a lot of people pushing back hard on the restrictions that are in place. They understand there's a need. So no, we're not being inundated with upset people at all.
That's good. I think that we've kind of covered our bases here, and if anything, we may be able to add that, you know, use at your own risk. You are responsible.
Yeah.
No one else.
All right, so if you are comfortable,
Madam Mayor,
Councillor Colt and Jeff.
I would take off the adult supervision required on the sign.
That's what I was just
I think a
gonna ask.
10-year-old or an 8-year-old,
I
I
would-
would think if they're 3 years old, the parent's gonna be there anyhow. If they're older than that, I think the parents know where they're going, or they should know where they're
I
going.
agree.
I would not require
Or
it.
recommended?
I would say advised, yeah, advised, yeah.
I would.
Adult supervision advised if they want to.
We're talking parents who cooped up with their kids for 3 months, they may not.
They want them out of the house.
Whether they're required or not.
The difficulty with requiring it, and Chum and I talked about this, is who's enforcing it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean-
Who's going from playground to playground to ensure that
No.
there's a supervisor for that child? It's difficult.
If you put advised, it just means use your best judgment.
No.
Yeah.
I mean,
Would that work better for you?
absolutely.
Okay, so,
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
all right. So thank you so much. All right,
The other one I want to
Jeff.
ask too is there's a lot of discussion about garage sales.
yes.
A lot of municipalities are by, which is interesting, they're saying that my council has prohibited garage sales, but they don't have a bylaw to support that prohibition, so fine. But my thought is, there are guidelines from AHS on garage sales. You can have them under certain conditions, if you meet them. Mostly they're concerned about the gatherings of 15 or more, or 50 or more now in outdoor. I just wanted to be clear, do you as a council feel any need to prohibit activities like garage sales? Now, farmers markets are similar, but there's guidance under those. Those can happen now in
Yeah.
public
Mhm.
facilities under certain conditions. So
Mhm.
that'll be up to our group to look at. But garage sale, I don't even think there's been any yet in the community that I've seen. And there are conditions for them. Is there any appetite to have stricter local conditions on garage sales?
Again, I think we're adults, if you go and buy something at garage sale, it's up to you to make sure that it's not gonna harm you when you get it home. That's my point.
Councillor Selk.
Based on the activity at the transfer station, is there any junk left in town?
Good,
I know.
good observation,
I
Councillor.
thought that same thing. Well, I have contributed generously to the transfer station over the past 2 or 3 weeks.
Personally, I really feel like Councillor Court, adults are dealing normally in garage sales. We normally don't have a young population going there without an adult. So I really honestly believe that those who put on a garage sale should understand that there is a need for distancing, and there is a need to maybe have a sign, please do not touch items. We will show them to you, or some kind of something like that. And I was wondering if the town could even make a sign like this, that people who want to have garage sales could come and get, possibly.
Well, like I said, the province has put out guidance. You can go on the BizConnect website and get guidance on garage sales. Those
Yeah.
conditions are posted, to my understanding.
Okay. Councillor,
Realistically, garage sales are already happening.
Yeah.
Because we have the Carson buy and sell.
Yeah.
And it's been hopping, I'm here to tell you. And people are buying things, and they are saying, well, I'm not gonna meet you at the front door, I put it out on my,
Yeah.
driveway, I've sanitized it, you take it to your house, you go ahead and sanitize it. So
E-transfer me the money.
e-transfer is happening nonstop.
Yeah.
So I think I'm a true believer of sometimes too much governance is
Yeah.
too much.
I
And I
agree.
feel like, for the love, this might be just too much. People are already using their brains and saying, we're good, I'm not gonna sneeze on you. I'm not gonna touch your stuff. I'm okay buying stuff from you. You, no. You know what I mean? Like, no offense, but it's already happening. I feel like we can be a little bit too much here.
Yeah.
I feel like this is an area, I'm a full supporter of everything we've talked about, playgrounds. I think the garage sales, you come back, you're going too far. That's
Right.
my personal.
And so essentially, we never declared a state of local emergency. Therefore, we can have those type of activities in town. And people need to be careful. Councillor Barnes, you wanted to say something?
Get your wife.
I've been
No.
doing the buy and sell thing, and I've sold quite a few items lately, and I'm quite happy with that. But the other thing is, I don't know that you'll ever have a garage sale without people picking up stuff. I don't care how much you tell them,
Exactly.
they're gonna pick it up, they're gonna look at it.
So it will be up to the owner of the staff to decide what to do with it,
Exactly.
right? So we leave it this way, and we will, on a weekly release, talk about garage sale being permitted. All right, thank you. All right, Jeff, you're still back on there. We have a topic that is important to us all, is unsightly premises, and as a
What item number is that?
this is 7B.
There's no background report.
Let's see,
A portion will be in closed session
Yeah,
as allowed by the FOIP
yeah.
rules.
So Councillor Bengry actually phoned and wanted this on the agenda, so he may want to speak, unless it's about a specific property, we'll do that in closed session. But I wanted to give you an update, because we said a few months ago I was going to do that more often, and I've been a little bit deficient on that. So right now, as of this morning, there are 8 open orders to comply for unsightly premise in the community. And there are 7 other properties being monitored. So they don't have an order yet, but if they don't make progress, they're going to get an order. So Sean's been reasonably assertive in getting out to properties, and like I said, he has 8 open orders to comply with timeframes. So that's probably as much as we've had in my time anyway. And then 7 more who have been met with.
Oh, with Councillor Drew.
They've got to keep making progress. There he is. So that's the generic update. The reason I also put this in closed session is if you would like to talk about specifics of anyone, that's not appropriate in the open session because it can jeopardize the enforcement of it down the road. But I did want to give you a general update in public.
Councillor Bengry, since it was your item for this agenda, do you want to talk about issues now, or do you want to wait to have the closed session?
We'll go to closed session for my comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Brown?
Sorry, Jeff, it's still about you. Sorry, I just have a quick question in regards to what the meaning of open orders and
Sure.
monitored. So
Yep.
open, so
So
monitored, go ahead.
If you get an order, that
Uh-huh.
means you have very specific things you must remedy by a specific time,
Okay,
or it goes to court
okay.
to enforce the order.
So we're past that, I need you to do this.
Yes,
That's right.
Now you haven't
Yeah.
done it,
correct,
so now you have to do it by this date.
correct.
Okay,
So Sean has been dealing with it where he gets monitored properties and then ordered properties. So if he has monitored properties move into orders if they don't comply with what was nicely suggested
Okay.
and recommended.
okay,
Then you start putting teeth to it.
okay,
Or if they've simply, we just have a couple of them that have ignored it for a long time because they don't see the seriousness
right,
of it.
right.
So yeah, most of these, only one of them is from last year and then the rest have been generated throughout so far this spring.
Okay,
So I can talk to you about a couple specifics. We do have concerns. Some are very unique. Some have challenges that
Yep.
are difficult for them to comply for
Yep.
certain reasons.
yeah,
And so we even have, and I'll share one week session where they have an order, but they have some substantial challenges in complying with the order.
right,
And so it's pretty open-ended,
okay,
but it's still a formal order so
Okay.
that they don't feel like they can just
you.
So it's, yeah, a challenge.
All right. Does that satisfy you? Okay, thank you. On the 7C, business arising from the delegation, I think we passed
Done that one.
the first reading, which should be okay. I am very glad to see someone taking on that
That'd be great.
issue seriously and moving it forward in a new.
My question on this is, are we looking to tweak what's been put into the bylaw? Is that the reason we're not going to go the second reading tonight?
Okay, Councillor, it's a bylaw, and good governance tell us, wait 2 weeks, give the chance for the public to react, and then we'll pass second and third reading. That's good governance. Thank you, but thank you for that. Because it affects the public, we always give time. If it doesn't affect the public, we can do second and third reading at the same session. That's the difference. Thank you for your question. Under 8, committee and other reports, you will see the numbers of reports are slim. There is some reports that have come in, but a little too late to be added onto this agenda. So thank you so much for those who have submitted them. You can see that a lot of committees are not meeting, and some that are still trying to do their work, and we're happy for those who are able to meet. It's a challenge, it really is, especially if you have a large committee, because it's a spacing issue, right?
I thought one's got 17 people and the other one's got 40 people. That's really.
Yeah, so I mean, a Zoom meeting is not always the best when you have that many people.
And the Zoom is a problem.
Yeah,
Everybody's having the same issues. It's all about, you know, digitizing and stopping.
yeah, well, Mayors and Reeves stop altogether,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate, but that's the way it is. All right, so at this point, Jeff had not included his report. The man was not busy this past week.
So I scribbled some stuff on a paper to give you a verbal report. I didn't have a chance to formalize it for the agenda, if that's permissible.
So please go ahead, and we trust
All
your
right.
report.
Went through the calendar, and I wanted to give you a brief update on a number of items that many of you may be curious about. I mentioned before, I'm having emergency committee meetings every week with a number of our agencies. Those are going. Give you an example of why I'm pleased with those meetings. Is even today in our government sector meeting, Corporal Fraser asked, "Hey, we're not clear on how we're supposed to be doing enforcement of Alberta health, things like quarantine. If we get a complaint from a citizen, should that be routed through who?" And there was some concern, and then there was a question about how could a peace officer help with the RCMP and or the Blood Tribe Police in enforcing quarantine orders, and can we be doing that better? And so in that meeting, we agreed that Blood Tribe Administration, Blood Tribe Police, RCMP, Peace Officer, Town, we would get together and have a discussion about how to look at that on a regional level and operate that better. And those are the kind of things that are coming from those meetings, which are really, really positive. And continuing to forge a few more good working relationships between all the parties. So that's been a good thing. I sit in on a phone call with Alberta Emergency Management every week, and then I also belong to a group out of Pincher Creek, where it's basically Pincher to Carson to Lethbridge, and it's Directors of Emergency Management, and we talk every other week. So tomorrow actually is that phone call, and we just do a half-hour, 40-minute meeting at lunch and go through that. So that works really well. I wanted to mention the internship is going well. JD's viewing from the back here. He's doing great work. He has to slog through a lot of stuff in the first little while, and I feel for him, but he's doing great. I wanted to highlight a couple of things that I think are going to be really good projects. As you recall, the Municipal Accountability Program, we did not get a visit from Municipal Affairs to do that, which was a compliment on their part. But JD is going through that program and will report to council about what he finds. So the province won't be doing the audit, but JD is going to do that audit of the municipality. The other thing that JD's working on, and I'll be working as well, normally with an internship, we end up going to a number of meetings and conferences and trainings every year. In fact, last Thursday was supposed to be intern supervisor day in Edmonton, but they're not having any of these. So that freed up a few hours that we would normally be at meetings. So we're working with the Community Carson Support Services and helping them with doing basically a governance review of that organization at their request. And so JD has started the interviews there administratively, and then he and I will start interviews with their board, and we'll be recommending improvements to the governance model, to policies, and to bylaws within the organization. And so we think that's going to be a really cool project to help a really important organization in the community that does good work. And then lastly, and we both just finished this right before council, the regional stormwater study proposals closed 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago on Friday. So JD and I have each separately reviewed all of those. There were 7 proponents. We had a really good feedback on that. 7 legitimate engineering firms gave us a proposal. So he and I are going to compare our notes tomorrow and recommend or go ahead with the company to do that stormwater proposal. And I was actually quite impressed with the quality of the proposals. Really good. So that'll be something. And overall, that's going well. And we'll get JD out in public works and parks and doing some other things here soon as the summer's upon us. A couple of things on the outfall line. I signed the contract with Porter Tanner today. So they started ordering materials today for the replacement of the 1,300 meters of the outfall. Our financing is all done and signed with the bank. Everything's sorted there. We have to get one Alberta Environment approval to discharge the effluent into Lee Creek for the time of the construction. The board's working on that. Those are not necessarily given. They can be difficult, but it simply must happen, or the logistics of trying to replace that line are going to be absolutely terrible if we're dealing with live effluent all day long. It'll be terrible. So we're working on that, and we're fairly comfortable that's going to happen soon. The disaster recovery creek work, sorry, I'm gonna try and temper my opinion on a lot of this, because I'm so frustrated with that department right now. It's just mind-numbing. The bureaucratic nightmare, and I know they're giving us the money, so I hope they don't see this before they send the check. But the bureaucratic nightmare that they arrange to try and go through these projects is so difficult. We've asked for a meeting with them. We're hoping it's next week. In the meantime, we have started hauling the rock to site. So there is rock being hauled to the campground reunion center area, and there's rock being hauled to the Lee Creek intake, and rock being hauled to hole 18 at the golf course.
Did you talk to the red tape minister?
Again.
Oh, that's another story.
I don't like to upset the apple cart too much until the check's in the bank.
Cleared.
And then we can unleash, you know what, if that's what we need to do. One thing you may get some feedback on is with the work on 18, when everything gets going, is it's going to turn 18, they'll have to rearrange how they play that hole. So for the time of the work, when they're working there live, it may end up being, instead of a par 5, it might end up being 2 par 3s. So it'll actually be 19 holes, but you'll play a short par 3, then a short par 3. Because we just need to keep people away from trying to cut off the angle of the bank, because we'll have equipment there. That's going to get sorted out, but we will have to affect play there for a little while until that site's done. But it should only be a few days that they have to work there. But as you might recall, when we tidied up 2011's project in 2014, that says something, by the way. When we tidied that up, my concern was they almost made it at the end of everything that we might not get reimbursed for the work. And it got a little sketchy there for a while. And so I said at the time that I'm not ready to proceed with the second phase of this until we know the work is going to be compensated. And everything looked fine, and then they've assigned 2 or 3 actually new engineers to the project since then, and we're starting back from square one with everyone where they're scrutinizing whether it should apply, whether they would fund it. And the program closed in March. That program is closed, and we have an extension through August to do the work. And so I'm really nervous about where this is sitting. And so we're trying to be very careful as we move through this. And hopefully next week I feel much better about the whole thing. But right now I'm a little antsy about that project. You may have seen or heard, we have a little work going on at the swimming pool. We cut 2 holes in the deck today and hydrovac'd out. We've had a leak since last year in that pool, and it's been reasonably substantial actually, where we've had trouble keeping the temperature and the chemical levels where they need to be because we're adding new water all the time. And so Acapulco is here. They flew in or drove in actually on Friday. And so they pinpointed a couple of locations. They did air pressure testing on all the pipes and found where they were losing pressure and how they could use the valving to kind of manipulate where it would be. And so we're hopeful. I haven't checked today to see how it went, but I know they exposed 2 of the pipes today. So we'll see how that goes.
Councillor,
We are.
Why is that?
good
Because-
question.
Well, what are we, 5 years?
We passed the warranty
We're
time.
5 years in, and the genesis, the cause of it is unknown. We don't know, and we might learn more about that today, but the cause is unknown. So we are paying Acapulco to be here. They are also installing the chlorine gas system for the pool, so we've been using liquid to this point, but it was designed for a gas system. So they're finishing that up, and that was included in the original contract, so that part's being done.
One other question, Eric.
Go ahead, and Councillor Brown.
See, there's some instability on the hillside there.
Yep,
Above the track.
yep.
I wonder if there's something going on underground there.
Well, that's probably piling snow on there for years caught up to us, frankly. I think that's what's happened there.
Yeah.
We just piled way too much snow on us this winter. And it's convenient because it's central. If we have to start trucking snow way out to the perimeters of town, it's gonna double our time to pick it up. That's the issue, so they try and find these close locations. But in both locations, we're currently dumping snow, both hills are suffering flooding.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's a problem, and that's something we're gonna have to address by winter again. So we gotta get that cleaned up on that hill. Get some things done there. Can't put the snow?
Yeah.
No, I don't think they go for that. Salt and antifreeze and whatnot on that stuff. The solar farm, this one's been a bit of a headache, but it's getting there. It's still not live. We're having troubles with the communication of the meters. So because of the size of it, and because it's in kind of semi-real time and how we're generating and selling back to the pool, we have excess, we have to have basically real-time metering. And the communications piece has been problematic. So the goal was June 1st, most recently. I was told today it might be just a few days after that. Now, the only good news on that is we haven't had to make a payment yet. So until it's materially completed and turned over, we have no payment on it. It's just unfortunate we're missing out on season.
Yeah.
You know, we want the peak
Yeah.
season. The payment's going to be the same whether we start these payments late in the year or the first of the year. So we need the peak season when the sun's at its most, the most hours. So I'm hoping we're 10 days away potentially, and that will be live. We were going to do kind of a big grand opening, the whole thing when we open, but given the COVID restrictions, what we're thinking of doing, and I haven't talked to the mayor about this yet, but is videoing like a walkthrough, a virtual tour that we can post on the website and social media and have the mayor speak to it a bit, have the contractor speak to it a bit, and Shem can video a bit of a virtual grand opening.
Sure. Sounds good. I'm all for it.
Yeah. Golf course, we've had some irrigation challenges there the last couple of weeks. Our reservoirs got a little bit low and we couldn't pump to the golf course because leaded irrigation wasn't in. Thankfully, it rained a whole bunch, so that bailed us out. And when leaded irrigation came in, we had some pressure issues on the system. So, but we're getting it sorted out. We have Alex Scow who's going to be managing the clubhouse there for the rest of the year. So he has stepped in and we signed that contract yesterday. And he's going to be taking care of that. We hope till the rest of the year. He's still, there may be a chance he goes back to his employer before the very end, but it looks like we have.
He's not working right now, or not?
No, he's not. No. So that was a bit of a change, but we'll be good. I think some continuity there. So far, knock on wood, revenues are looking fairly okay. It's been busy, and one thing we did is under the guidelines for golf courses when they first came out, the province recommended that you extend your spacing between golf tee time. Mm-hmm. And so we doubled them from 7 to 15 minutes, but we've actually scaled that back to 10-minute spacing. That's that there's enough demand that we need to scale that back, and it's either 2 meters apart or 10 minutes apart. We felt we were okay with that.
Good.
So that's happening there. So far, that's.
So the campgrounds are opening.
Campground will be June 1st. So I sent them just today, I sent Colton the most updated guidance from the province and said I just wanted him to review his mitigation plan to ensure that it met all the guidelines from the province again. Something that tweaked and changed a little bit. So I expect to hear from them tomorrow. But one thing I was going to bring you is bad news, but this is just because it's interesting. In our John Deere loader backhoe, it went down a couple days ago and they took it into John Deere and the motor has failed, which is no small touch. I asked Bart, I said, what's a new motor in a backhoe? He said, well, it's probably at least 25 grand. So I was preparing an RFD to come to you to ask for 25 grand to replace it. Rand called him back on Monday and it was still under warranty by 3 days.
Oh, gee, lucky us.
So Bart came in and said, I have some good news. Now, we don't get it for 3 weeks, which is a real problem actually, because the guys are kind of at their peak busy right now and we're down a machine. But we're going to bring in Gerry Scott on one of the projects with his machine, and then we're just going to have to make it work. But I was dang surprised. And to John Deere's credit, there's a 6-year warranty on the engine of those machines, by the way. So we were 3 days under 6 years.
Wow.
I believe so. I mean, there was.
I couldn't believe it. I thought for sure, I was like, oh, just passed. I got to account for 25 grand. But we're okay right now.
Good.
So.
Sounds good.
Other than that, that's, the electrical conversion, you've probably seen them digging things up and wrecking stuff, but we're really getting very close to being able to decommission the transformer at Lions Park.
Mm-hmm.
And so that 25,000 volt conversion may be really, really close to done by the end of this season. And then we can clean up. We have a lot of remediation to do on that because there's all that oil in it that potentially has PCB contamination and things like that. So that's just not pull the plug and haul it out.
So you will eventually clean that up right out of there?
Correct, it won't need to be there at all.
Wow.
So
That'd be nice.
that's
Beautiful.
the transformer for the whole town, but it can potentially come out by next season. So we're about a year ahead of that schedule and it seems to be going fairly well.
Jeff, what happened to a piece of equipment of that sort?
That's a great question because there's not a lot of new construction with 4160 kV.
No.
But we may find other rural electrification agencies or even a Fortis who has pockets of their infrastructure that would be a benefit. But to speak to the value of it, I wouldn't have any clue at this point. I don't even know the condition of it really when it's all said and done. I mean, the lights are on, so it's okay, but I don't know for sure.
I've been on council for 9 years now, and for 9 years we spoke about that line and how we were always very concerned that if we had a major breakdown, we would have really serious issue with electricity in town. And honestly, I'm really happy to know that we had that piece of equipment survive that long.
Aren't you glad you didn't hold your breath for 9 years?
Well, it was a little bit of a concern to administration and to all the administrators that have been there, so I'm glad it's done.
So there's a quick overview. If there's any questions or anything I missed, by all means, let me know.
No, and I want to really thank you for taking JD under your wing and putting him to work on a very interesting project and mentoring him through that. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, we got some good things there.
Thanks.
Thanks.
All right. At this point, we have some correspondence. So it's under number 10. So here is an interesting piece of letter request from AUPE, which is a unionized group of public employees. We have about 148 members in our town that belong to this organization. Our staff at the town, as you know, is non-unionized. And what I really think, if we want to do something and showing our support to that body, I think we as a town would be well advised to go through AUMA. We have an important body there that really looks at all those different issues with the doctors, with different groups that feel that the government need to start to review their positions. And I think there is force and power in having municipality use that body, because I represent all the town, and use the rural organization to send the same message. If that is a message that needs to be sent, I really think for us would be the right way to do it. Just your opinion.
AUP makes no bones about the fact that they are very strong supporters of the NDP, and they're very much against our current government.
Yes,
And
that's
so I'd
an
be a little
issue.
bit leery about addressing anything they send to us in that particular instance.
They're a very political group.
They are.
They're extremely political. This is why I say, if we want to address any concerns, it should go, in my opinion, through AUMA. That would be, we are an apolitical body as a council, and we chose to be that way and to remain that way. And so it would be not a very wise move to become political with any organization. So do you support that?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, so on the 10,
One question, if I might.
go ahead.
Jeff, do you know how our clinic is being affected? I haven't heard any rumblings from our clinic and our doctors, but I have lots of communities. I've read all kinds of articles, you know, for a dozen or more communities that are losing services or withdrawing, but I haven't heard about our community.
Our MLA addressed that about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Where they drew back everything they were going to do.
Yeah,
They put it all away.
That's regarding the doctors, so
Doctors.
it's not
Emergency
regarding
rooms
the,
and stuff like that. So they withdrew all of that stuff that they were going to do.
yeah,
Joseph
at this
Scott
point,
chaired that meeting, so.
yeah.
I've heard no formal position from our clinic, but I also haven't sought it out, so I just don't know.
Okay.
Interesting to know.
All right, so thank you so much. On the 10B, there is Minister Casey Madhu. As you know, the MSI allocations come always first regarding the money. We spend it all, and then we get the letter to tell us we were awarded that money. So we are very grateful for the money, truly grateful, because it really funds our capital projects and some of our operations. So it is good. Did we not already send a letter of thanks for those? I thought we did. Anyway, maybe we should have a look.
I can check.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Sent a letter for the ACP grant.
Was that the ACP? Well, we can always send a thank you letter for those and telling them the money was well used. Thank you very much. But you give us more next time. Okay. On the 10C, Alberta Association of Police Governance. Now that's an interesting request. They have two positions that are vacant. The last time we had something to do with it, I went with Councillor Creed, and it was a very interesting meeting, but it had to do with the policing committees that kind of oversee the activity of the police in a town. And because we have the RCMP, this was not something that we could have. we could not have an advisory board. Right now, there seems to be, with the fact that we are going to contribute funding to the police, there is possibly an interest there, because now we will be able to have an advisory board. And is that important for our town to be represented? I would say yes in some ways, but the other concern I have is that the meeting is in Edmonton, and driving there in the winter doesn't impress me. So otherwise I would be going. Yes.
I think it's interesting that we do have a councillor right now who was a former police officer in this community, and that's Councillor Bengry.
Yes.
And my thoughts are, I would recommend that Councillor Bengry be one of those that we put forward his name to be one of those vacant.
Councillor Bengry, how does that grab you?
I've been sitting here just looking at the letter. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
I would be interested in doing that, yes.
Okay, so do you want to put your name forward?
Yes, go ahead.
All right, so if that is the case, Jeff, I'm not so 100% sure what the process would be, except that there is an application that needs to be made, and upon being successful, I suppose then we would approve the per diem.
I think for today, if Councillor Bengry is, it sounds like he's on side, is I would have you make a resolution to nominate him for the committee. And then
Okay.
see, they may get 100 nominations, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's
So-
what I was wondering. I was not so sure how you wanted us to proceed. So, Councillor Barnes?
I move that we, I nominate Councillor Bengry to be approved to apply for this position.
To the Alberta
And if he
Association.
is successful being approved and accepted, that we take care of his per diem and his mileage.
Okay, fair enough. The mileage is taken care by the association. It's only the per diem
Yeah.
that will need to be dealt with. Correct,
You
Jeff?
can just call it expenses and resolution.
Expenses, yeah, put expenses rather than the detail of it.
Okay, so, yeah, so we'll approve it.
Associated.
As per,
Associated
yeah,
expenses.
as
Okay.
per the associated expenses.
Okay. Questions? All in favor? Councillor, vote for yourself, thank you. All right, so I'm really happy that we may have somebody that could potentially be there.
Well, I think he's got the expertise and he knows.
Right, and I'm really pleased because it's a good group. I really had totally enjoyed being there and was sad at the time that we could not have a board. All right, so at this point, we will go in closed sessions. And we have 3 items, one dealing with the intermunicipal collaboration framework with the county. It will be an update. B, will specifics on unsightly premises. And C, a contract matter. All right, so thank you so much for Temple staff for being there. Thank you so much. We appreciate your work. And we will now take a motion.
Take a 5-minute break.
Yeah, we'll, so take a break first and then we'll,
Serve a motion.
yeah, take a break.
I'll
All
move
in,
to,
go ahead, Councillor Drew.
I was just going to move to recess for 5 minutes.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you very much.
I didn't bring food, so.
Well, we should be done within 15 minutes, I think.
Actually, there's a bit of a faux pas during COVID to bring food to any gathering.